The key word is awareness, how aware you are. So let's talk on harassment at workplace, and if you could suggest some solutions to the young girls who go, to work at the age of 25, 30, they just started with the new office. So if you could suggest some solutions, security and safety?
See, harassment can take many forms, right? And it can start from anything like a person calling into their cabin or making you stay back when there are guys around. And again, see, it's very important to have a balance. Let's supposing I was a young girl and you were a guy, right? And I come to work for you. Let's just change gender roles. Let's say you as a person are a male person and you are my boss, right? And you're treating me as an equal. Yeah, and you call me to your cabin in the evening and tell me, hey, listen, you've got to work late. Now, I can read it two ways. I can be totally paranoid and say, look, what are you calling me? On the other hand, I can be sensible and say, look, your boss is calling me and this is neutral ground because you're treating me as an equal, right? Yeah. So it's important not to go off the deep end and start seeing things where there is nothing and read meanings in lines that just doesn't exist. Versus also being aware that, hey, listen, this shit does happen. So let's just take it at face value and just see how it goes. Yeah. So it requires that sense or that balance once again to understand a situation and read it right. Because if you misread it and you think that's totally innocent and something happens, you're taken unawares. And if you read it wrong, hang on, the guy's just telling you to come talk work, right? So that balance becomes important. But it's also important to understand that, hey, listen, what should I do? Should I walk in? Should I work late? If people are working late, what is the form this harassment is going to be? Is it going to be simply words? Are they going to be making lewd jokes? Yeah, like they would maybe guys, when guys are together, guys will use bad language, etc. It's not necessarily acceptable with the woman. Some guys also don't like it, right? So you've got to be aware. They've got to be aware of it. You've got to make sure that they're aware that, hey, listen, this shit doesn't work with me. So stand your ground. You don't need to be offensive about it. Just be polite. Hey, look, ये थोड़ा joke नहीं चलता भाई. In whatever way. The minute you start doing that, it's about being respectful, being nice, but being firm. Yeah. Hey, look, the stuff, no. Or when you're there and the person sees that you're there, let the person start making sure that you're comfortable. Yeah. Also, what happens is that, see, you've got to be able to stand up. Tomorrow, if something does happen, somebody tries messing with you, stop there and say, hey, dude, what did you do? The same thing as a principle, it works on the street, it works at home, it works at the workplace. It immediately psychs the hell out of the guy and says, like, dude, I didn't do anything. No, hang on, you just touched my bum, right? Or my backside, or whatever you want to call it, right? And the guy said, no, sorry, it must have been accident. Now it's up to you. You escalate it or you just drop it there, but people have got the warning. You understand? So it's about one, being sensible and having a balance. Two, being firm, politely. And three, if something does happen, to be able to escalate it immediately, simply to warn people. And if something like this happens, if people try and misbehave with you on a regular basis and all, and you're being firm or being or escalating it or telling them, hey, look, warning them of doesn't work, then raise it straight. Raise it to your CEO, raise it to your HR, raise it to whoever your management is, and don't be scared about doing it, right? Luckily, there's been a lot of awareness about sexual harassment at work, and that works in your favor. Yeah, it'll get action taken. Yeah, in whichever manner, in whichever form, it will be taken. So the first point is that don't walk into it thinking that it's going to be a terrifying experience. It's not.
Very nicely put, Ajay. Ajay, I would want you to guide the youngsters, the young housewives, young mothers, because being on the social media, giving away a lot of information on the social media is a real threat these days. So how can we improve cyber security awareness?
As if normal life wasn't bad enough to compound the security fears, we have now got the digital environment to really worry about. And a lot of people are unaware of the dangers that the digital mediums pose to us and our well-being or the safety of our loved ones, simply because people don't understand technology. Hey, listen, I know how to use my phone, I know how to use WhatsApp, And that's the level of my tech involvement or my tech knowledge. Unfortunately, there are a whole range of people, right from hackers down to people who are um, more tech savvy, who know how to use the medium far better than you or I would, right? And the way they look at life is like, it's like a guy walking in a crowded space. It's like me and you walking into Paharganj, right, in a crowded area, or carrying a nice fat wallet in a back pocket and walking unaware, right? So for us, we think, oh, we are cool, and those guys are watching us coming and saying, ah, look, murga aa raha hai khane ko, you know. So that's exactly the digital equivalent, right? So you and I post a picture, the other person's looking at it, because they can look at it, they can look at XF information, they can download, and if you're geotagged, all the more information. Uh, it's very easy for people, especially if you haven't got security settings, and even if you do, if I'm taking a photograph of a young child, my son or my daughter, and I'm posting it, instantly people know that, one, I have a son and I have a daughter, which is information I may not want the whole world to know, right? Secondly, it starts letting people know that, and if I take a photograph of a certain place, right? Now, a lot of these places are identifiable, especially if you know which area I live in, right? Or if I know where you live, right? So I can figure out, okay, this, इन्होंने यहाँ लिया, ये इस टाइम पे गए थे, तो वहाँ पे लिया था, ये इस टाइम उस दिन गए थे, अच्छा बहुत पैसा है इनके पास. Yeah, so you're opening the gamut, right, from everything from not just sexual stalking or stalking, but down to kidnapping, violence, robbery. All of these open up, because see, to the other guy, you look rich. You may have no rupees in the bank balance. You may have huge EMIs to pay off. So whatever money you get in the end of the month goes there. You may have no savings, but to that guy, you're rich. Yeah, they don't know the reality, right? Yeah. And as far as they're concerned, dude, you're far richer, please give me money. Yeah, and if holding you up or being able to figure out where you stay allows me access into your home, or allows me to get more information, allowing me to break and enter into your home, allows me to kidnap your child or molest you, becomes easier, then guess what? Everything that I'm doing is adding to the information that you possess. Yeah, so it needs to be very, very carefully thought through, especially young girls. Don't post too many pictures of yourself. Be very careful about your security settings of who can see your pictures, who can't, who are your friends. So a lot of the settings are their friends, your friends' friends, general public, the world at large, the world and its uncle, whatever. So you got to be very careful about a lot of this.
Some very important points from Ajay Ahluwalia, the founder and the CEO of Blackbelt Fitness. Ajay, now coming to the elders, a lot of kids, a lot of their sons and daughters they move out of India, they move abroad for their work. Now, elderly parents, they stay alone in India, even though they are staying in gated colonies, with a lot of security. Still, we hear a lot of mishappenings happening. Yep. Can you guide us on that, please?
As you grow older, a lot of the physical stuff, even if you could do it, starts going out of the window. One part of it is habit, because as we grow older, we believe that, oh, I can't do any running. वो तो बचपन में कर लिया तो कर लिया. अब हम मोटरसाइकिल नहीं चला सकते, अब हम साइकिल नहीं चला सकते, अब हम भाग नहीं सकते. So we start putting the mental restrictions on us. So that affects us physically. It also affects us mentally, right? One very important thing for older people to realize is that, look, you can be as mentally and physically active as you can. And it's up to you to do that or not, because the spin-offs or the benefits are huge and they work for you. I mean, you being fit is not going to help me, it's going to help you, right? So one part of it is that, but at the same time, being older means that you're less capable of getting into violent situations, right? Therefore, you need to be able to preempt them. And that brings me back to the same point which we started off with, which is personal safety versus self-defense. It's not self-defense I'm looking at. If I'm an old poor person with diabetes and I'm sitting at home and I need a walking stick, I'm barely going to be able to feebly reach out to the walking stick and hit somebody on the head. There may be times when adrenaline push happens and I'm aggressive enough and mentally prepared enough, and I might be able to do it, but I can't count on it, right? Yeah. So that's self-defense part. Let's leave it out of the window. Let's look at what can I do to stop it or prevent it from happening. So the first part is to understand that, look, if this is the case, therefore, who are the people I can or depend upon. And who are the people I'm dependent upon on a day-to-day basis? So if I'm an old person, I'm staying alone at home, me and my wife, for example. And yeah, I may have live-in help, or I may have visiting help, right? I may be in a standalone house, or I may be in a gated colony, as you put it, right? Each of these situations has certain variables, but it also has certain permanence in it, right? So if I have a permanent servant, who is the servant? How attuned am I to things? So, for example, I may have had Ramu, who stayed with me for 30 years, yeah, because now he's 55 and he came to me when he was 20. And Ramu may be a lovely person. But if I take Ramu as face value and say, okay, to yahan pe tha, and I'm not paying attention to his life, I don't know if he's got a child who's got a drug problem. I don't know if he's got a brother who's in a jam and he needs money desperately. Now, Ramu knows that if he comes and asks you for money, you may give him 1,000, you may give him 5,000, you may give him 10,000, but he tomorrow needs a lakh and a half. And he's up shit creek where his brain doesn't work. You're not paying attention. Now, Ramu is in a mess because of his family or his friends or somebody, and he doesn't know where to turn to. Ramu decides, look, boss, chori kar dete hain. You see, so you're under the impression or the rosy impression that Ramu is a person who's lived with me, and he may be, but you're also not paying attention. It's like me walking from the city into the deep jungle, and I'm not paying attention. I'm like Red Riding Hood, who's walked out from her thing, gathering flowers in the evening, and I've left my cottage and the home and the little garden, and I'm walking deeper and deeper into the jungle. The days become evening, and I'm not paying attention because I'm looking at the birds, I'm looking at the little flowers, I'm looking at the pretty pebbles. And I have lost sight of the fact that I'm so far away from home, I can't find myself way back, right? And suddenly there are wolves and there are tigers and there are horrible people all around. So the same thing happens, you've got to pay attention. You've got to be able to understand who is this person? Who are you staying with? How much can you really depend upon them? Are you on tune with them? Yeah. Or am I letting the past become an influence in how I perceive the future? Yeah. And to what extent? Yes. So if you've been with me for a long time and we've been together, yes, you can depend upon me. But how aware of you of what the current situation is like, right? Or are we living with nostalgia and saying, listen, the past was great, therefore tomorrow if I'm in trouble, Ajay is going to help me. Or I'm going to believe, hey, listen, I'm in trouble, Rashi is going to help me. Might not happen, right? The second part about it is the temporary help, right? People who come in, just do some work and go. You again don't know who they are. A lot of times people are worried about doing police verification. See, one of the issues that has happened today is that it's difficult to find good help. So even if the maid is rude, she doesn't come on time or whatever hell, a lot of people are willing to put up with it. The problem is that when you start putting up with things, you do not know what the mentality of the person is. Yeah. Let's not even talk about anything. Let's say you're an old man at home, like you're a different twist to the whole thing. You're an old man at home. There's a maid who comes and cleans the house. You're there with your wife. The maid's not a good person. She comes in tomorrow and accuses you of molesting her. What do you do? What do you do? You've done nothing. But I'm saying that's very difficult in today's day to start taking things at face value, and you have to be prepared. You have to think about things and say, dude, what happens if this happens? What happens here? I don't have to act on it. I don't have to start becoming paranoid, but I definitely need to give a little bit of attention. And let's look at it this way. I have 24 hours a day. I have 7 days a week. I have 31 days a month. I have 365 days a year. If I'm not even going to spend 1 second or 2 seconds of this thinking about it in 365 days, I'm a fool. I don't have to live with this 24/7, but I definitely need to give it some thought. No? So the more thinking I can apply, yeah, the more I'm able to look at things and deal with them, right? And again, it's from a point of balance. So the best thing for elderly people is to ensure that one, you know who's around you. Yeah, there are other support people who can be reached out to. And three, that if you're in the home and people are not able to get in touch with you, how much time before somebody knows outside your home that you're okay or not okay? Is somebody going to check? So if I'm at home and my wife is at home and we're sitting in the house today, the lockdown thing, and we're not talking to other people, tomorrow somebody comes and murders us, the guys find out 3 days later, it's too late, no? So, you've got to be able to preempt, and it's not necessarily about violent answers to solutions as much as looking at, hey, listen, what happens if somebody tries to break in the window? Who do I call? How do I call? How long does it take me to dial on a phone? Is the phone even next to me? Do I even know where the phone is? Yeah, a lot of times people are just not, they're not disciplined about keeping things in a specific place. Phone yahan rak diya, phone wahan rak, oh kahan gaya mera phone, you know? So I mean, if that's going to happen, and somebody's, he's not going to be saying, "Hang on, Uncle Ji, why don't you go get your phone?" And then I'm going to attack you. Then I'm going to rob you. It's not going to do that, right? So it's about thinking things like this through, saying that, hey, listen, what action can I take if something like this happens? It's about situations and just in your head trying to figure out what can be done.
Since you're aware, our initiative is three. I am Generation Equality
Yeah.
for the International Women's Day, 8th of March, and that's why you're here with us for this initiative.
Yeah, because one of the things that we really do is focus on women's self-defense and women's empowerment. So yeah, absolutely.
So I would want you to give away a special message to all those women who feel powerless so that they can feel empowered for this special 8th of March International Women's Day. Over to you.
Most important thing for every woman, and not just again women, while it's specific to women, is that you're only as powerless as you think you are, right? And you're as powerful as you wish to be, right? A lot of times it means stepping up and not being timid or not being scared. Because what you've got to look at it is, अगर मेरे को डर के मरना है, तो मरना तो है ही, तो लड़के क्यों ना मरूं? The minute you make that mental switch that, why should I be scared? What is it that's going to happen? What is the worst that's going to happen to me? I'm going to die, right? What's the worst? And somebody told me this long back, and I think it's brilliant. Once I can think of what's the worst that's going to happen, I'm better able to deal with it. And then I can lose the fear because I've put it in context. And the same thing happens with all the powerless women that you're talking about, is to first put your fears in context. What is the worst? You'll be alone? Big deal. Nobody will stand up with you? Big deal. Big deal. Why should you shut up and take the indignity of being assaulted or molested or mistreated, if that is the issue, right? You don't need to. There are enough people and there are enough women's support groups comprising of both women as well as men who are there to support. All it requires me is to just step up for myself as a woman and say, hey, listen, I'm going to deal with this today. I'm not going to be pushed around anymore. I don't want to be pushed around. The minute you make that mental switch, everything changes. It doesn't become easy, but as you go down the path, it does become easier to deal with. Yeah, because suddenly you start finding support in places which you didn't expect. Yeah, but the first change comes here, and it comes here. So it's as simple as that. One of the things that I have seen, and we've been doing this now, 13 years, yeah? So a long time back when we specialize and we move specifically with the focus towards women's self-defense. At one level, a lot of women talk about gender roles and we talk about this and we talk about that. But a lot of times what I've noticed is it's just talk. We do a lot of self-defense training for a lot of the sections of society, women especially, for free. We don't charge, right? We pay for it. We don't get sponsors also, we still do it, right? I find a lot of women very reticent. You don't necessarily need to come and learn how to punch and kick and fight, though my suggestion is do it because the spin-off is fitness. You end up looking fit instead of going and paying a gym. And go and pay the gym, please. The guy depends upon you going there. So please, I'm not de-selling their livelihood, please. But the point is the minute you start learning self-defense, not from us necessarily, from anybody, it starts making you fitter. It starts making you mentally more confident, attitudinally more ready to handle challenges, even at work, pressures, all of that stuff, right? So it's important for you to do that. It's important for women to get up and say, look, we are actually going to learn self-defense as a discipline, which is the martial arts part of it, which is the physical part of it, as well as go for sessions. And we do a lot of these talks, which are about helping people understand, which is nothing physical. But it requires women to come forward. And we've been doing so many of these sessions, and there are times we get really dejected. We've asked 150 women to come. You know how many turn up? The last session which we did, 5 people. 35 people were invited. 5. And it's disheartening. Because, see, it's one thing for you as an individual to come and ask people to come and help you when you're in trouble. The other thing is you're not willing to help yourself. And that's an attitude that I think needs to change. Whether it is, oh, I'm a woman and therefore I don't get into these kind of things or this, you've fallen into the gender role yourself. How can you break a gender role if you're not willing to break it? You say, hey, listen, women are not supposed to, women can do this and women, okay. Why can't you learn how to save yourself? Yeah. So yes, a woman can become a pilot. Yes, a woman can become an astronaut. Yes, a woman can become the president of the country or the prime minister of the country. She can become the vice president of the United States. All of those are good. But one of the first steps is to also ensure that you can be safe, not just for you. So you can pass this on to other people who need it.
हम अपने सारे कनेक्शंस और सारे व्यूअर्स को रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे, ऑल द कॉर्पोरेट हाउसेस एंड ऑल द गवर्नमेंट बॉडीज जो हमारे साथ कनेक्टेड हैं, प्लीज अजय अहलुवालिया की बात को सुनिए और समझिए. बहुत जरूरी है सीखना, खुद को सेफ रखना. कोई सिखाएगा नहीं, लेकिन आपकी अवेयरनेस आपके हाथों में है. बहुत ही अच्छी बातें अजय ने हमें बहुत ही सरलता से बता दी हैं. हर चीज से बढ़कर अपने जीवन की नायिका बनिए, शिकार मत बनिए. टू लर्न मोर ऑन सेफ्टी, get in touch with Ajay Ahluwalia, the Blackbelt Fitness guy, who will actually guide you. It is not about the fight, it is about being aware. Lack of knowledge is equally dangerous than any kind of danger in this whole world.